Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Dr. Tom LaHue. We're going to be looking at the Enneagram today and the Garden of Eden. So let's do this. Just a reminder, in the description below is a link to my website, tomlahue.com. I do offer Enneagram coaching programs, as well as a variety of on-demand classes related to the Enneagram, one of which is the Enneagram and Christian life coaching, and the Enneagram and spirituality. So if you're interested in this topic, those might be some courses. If you want to go deeper, you want to dive deeper into this subject, those might be some good options for you. You know, life can be challenging sometimes, and relationships can be very difficult, and the Enneagram is a great tool to help us figure out, what's going on and how to relate better to people around us and to have better, healthier relationships and to grow. So it's a great tool for coaching, for life coaching, and I have lots of clients all over the world, and I'd love for you to consider working with me through my program, Present to Life. Okay, so let's dive into this topic, the Enneagram and the Garden of Eden. What do you mean by this? Well, first, let me go through a little bit of background. I have been a Christian pastor for the last 30 plus years. I graduated from a Christian college, used to be called Florida Christian College, and then it was taken over by Johnson University in Kissimmee, Florida, around the Orlando area. And then I have 3 master's degrees from Christian colleges, including a Master of Divinity from Liberty University. And my doctorate of ministry is from Grace Theological Seminary, Grace College and Theological Seminary in Warsaw, Indiana. So my background is ministry. My background is theology and Christian living, and so that's where I'm coming from. Okay, that's my perspective. And if you've watched a lot of my videos, I don't try to be heavy-handed about this. Like, I realize my audience is coming from a wide variety of backgrounds, and some religious, some non-religious, and that's fine. The Enneagram is a very useful tool for you, no matter what your theological perspective or your background is. And I don't try to push or shove or force my religious views. Realize, guys, we all have religious views. Even if you consider yourself to be an atheist, you still have religious views. When you think about religion as being questions, those big philosophical questions of who am I, where did I come from, where are we going, what happens when we die, is there a God, and if there is a God, does that God ever, communicate to us or care about us? All of those beliefs, all of those questions you have answers to, whether you've formally thought through them or not. And everybody has religious views in terms of everybody has answers to those questions, even if you don't believe in God, or you believe in a God that doesn't care whether we acknowledge him or not. We all have religious views. So it's kind of a misnomer to say some people are religious and other people aren't. I would say some people have formal religious beliefs and other people have informal religious beliefs, but all of us are religious in that perspective. And my goal in this video is not to argue with anybody. It's not to to convert you. It's not to, belittle anybody else's belief system. My goal is just for you to understand my perspective and my background and how I blend the Enneagram on the one hand and the Bible on the other. And so, again, I go into a lot more depth in this in that on-demand course, the Enneagram and Christian life coaching. But let's just talk. Let's just talk about it, okay? I think that, like Alice Freiling in her book, Mirror for the Soul, she's an Enneagram Type 4 and a Christian writer. She wrote that book a long time ago. She says a very interesting quote. She says, "The Enneagram and the Bible tell us the same things about ourselves, but use different words." Something like that. I may be paraphrasing, but that's the basic idea of what she says, is the Enneagram and the Bible are telling us the same thing, but they just use different words to communicate that to us. And there's a lot of misnomers out there about the Enneagram. Some people, some Christians will back away from it and say, you're dealing with the metaphysical world here. You're dealing with esoteric truths. You're trying to show how people can be enlightened without Jesus Christ. That people can find their true selves apart from the Lord. And I'm suspicious of this. And realize I don't think that's true. I don't think the Enneagram helps us, become enlightened without the need for God. I don't think the Enneagram, I don't think its design is to complete you and make you a perfect person. I think it's really quite the opposite. The Enneagram shows us how we're broken, how we are deficient, and what it's like to live in this world outside of the Garden of Eden. Now, if you go back into the Bible and you look in Genesis chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, right? The way the Bible starts is everything is perfect. That God creates Adam and Eve in this perfect environment in the Garden of Eden, and there's nothing to be afraid of, there's nothing to be angry about, and there's no sense of shame. And, it isn't long before the serpent and Adam and Eve, the great fall, and, we're banished from the garden. And now the rest of us have to accommodate to life outside the Garden of Eden. And I think the Enneagram really shows us in very clear way what that life looks like outside the Garden of Eden. And I could say it like this. I don't think before the fall in Genesis 3, I don't think that Adam and Eve had an Enneagram type. I think they were fully functional human beings and not marked or stained by sin. And remember, every one of these Enneagram types is rooted in some dominant sin. 1's is anger, 2's is pride, 3's is deceit, right? And without having a sin nature, I don't think Adam and Eve had an Enneagram type. Also, I don't think Jesus had an Enneagram type. I think Jesus, being virgin born and being God in the flesh and unstained by sin, isn't, his personality is not rooted in some dominant sin. And I think if you look at Jesus through the Gospels, you will see him look like a 2, you'll see him look like a 1, you'll see him look like a 9, you'll see him look like a 7, you'll see him look like all these types, but also challenge all of those types. Look at the Pharisees, for example, very much like in that awful, dark 1 vibe, and he challenges that. I don't think Jesus is a 1. Okay, enough about that. Let's come back to the Garden of Eden for a moment. So the way I kind of syncretize or merge these two things, the Bible on the one hand and the Enneagram on the other, is I think what the Enneagram does is it shows us what life is like outside the Garden of Eden. And essentially, if you think about it, there's 3 basic problems that we have as humans now living outside of the protection and outside of the security and outside of the relationship, that we had in the Garden of Eden. There's 3 major problems, and that doesn't surprise me that there would be 3. I think we would see 3 a lot, considering that, as a Christian, we believe God is a Trinity, the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. And so we'll see 3 very often in the Enneagram. You'll see lots of sets of 3. For example, 3 different centers: the head, the heart, and the gut. You'll see 3 different types within each of those 3 centers. You'll see 3 different subtypes, and you'll see 3 basic stances of assertive, compliant, and withdrawn. You're going to see 3 everywhere. After you watch this video, if you've never thought about it, you're going to see 3 everywhere when you look at the Enneagram now. And I think that, that doesn't surprise me. That makes sense to me as someone with a Christian worldview and a Christian upbringing, and Christian theological training and education, etc., etc. Okay, so let's come back to the Enneagram. I think what you have here is you have essentially the gut types, 8, 9, and 1, are dealing with a single problem. And again, I've never read this anywhere, and I've read a lot of books on the Enneagram. I've never read this. It is my perspective. I'm not arguing that this is the case. I'm just saying this is my perception and my understanding and the way I blend these 2 things together. Okay, so let's be clear about that. So 8, 9, and 1, the gut types or the angry types, are all essentially dealing with a single problem. And that problem is, why is everything broken? Why do people get sick? Why do people abuse and oppress each other? Why do couples fight? Why is there disease? Why do bad things happen in this world? If this world is designed by God, if God is perfect and God is good, then why do bad things continue to happen? Why do people mistreat each other? why are people doing stupid things and being awful to one another? And essentially 8s, 9s, and 1s, I think, are all trying to wrestle with that fundamental problem that exists now that we are not in the Garden of Eden. Everything is broken. Everything is marred and stained and tainted by sin. And no matter how good something may be, there's always some element of brokenness or fallenness in it. I mean, for example, take the best pastor, the best church in the world, if you were to get in close enough and you were to really know these people, you would see that they are broken just like everybody else. They have their flaws, they have their problems, they have their deficiencies just like everybody else. And so, 8s, they kind of come straight against this problem and say, this is bull crap, who's responsible for this? This needs to be stopped. This needs to be changed. This needs to be called out. Something needs to be done about this. And I'm probably the one that needs to do something, and don't you tell me what to do. So 8s come like straight at this problem. 9s, on the other hand, they sort of kind of shrug their shoulders and say, yeah, everything's broken. Yeah, people are difficult. Yeah, people do stupid things and bad things happen, but you can't fight against it. You need to learn to just accept it. You need to learn to, be okay, like, with the way things are, and try to just understand one another and try to really, put yourself in other people's shoes. And look, these are both ways to try to solve this fundamental problem. And then 1s, of course, the perfectionists are saying, look, well, what needs to happen, see here, is there needs to be rules and structure and guidelines and laws and procedures and policies and punishments and discipline, and we could fix this, we could make this right, we could perfect this, we could make this better if we would just get on the side of good and choose to do the right thing and step up to the plate and be responsible. And so you have these 3 types dealing with this same fundamental problem with 3 basic different solutions to this problem. Now let's move over to like the heart types or the shame types. And I think here these 3 types are dealing with a single fundamental problem, and that is, now that we're no longer in the Garden of Eden, now that we don't have this connection to God like we used to have, and to each other. In the Bible it says that God's going to put enmity between the husband and the wife. And so think like even in our human relationships, there's this strife, there's these problems, there's these challenges. And so the problem isn't just between us and the divine, or us and God, or us and the universe. The problem is between us and one another, like you and everybody else. There's conflict and there's strife and there's problems. And one of the theological terms that's used for what happened in the Garden of Eden is the fall. Okay, so think about that. Like you're at this position and then you're dropped down to a different position that is not higher, it's lower. You're falling, right? And I think that type 2, 3, and 4 are all dealing with this fundamental question. Do I matter? Do I have value? Where does my value come from? Now that I'm not in this connection with God, walking in the garden anymore, and I'm also, all my relationships are fractured and broken, how do I know that I matter? What is the purpose of our lives? What are we here for? What is all of this about? And how do I know that I'm significant? And how do I know that I'm valuable? And of course, I believe that everybody created in the image of God already has value, but this is challenged by these type 2s, 3s, and 4s. They're all struggling with this fundamental problem of where does our value and worth come from? And, type 2s, they sort of take an approach of, well, I need to become valuable to other people. I need to connect to them, to serve them, to encourage them, to partner with them, and I need to be of use and value to people, and then I get a sense of having value because I've become valuable to these other people. I'm getting a message back to me of my importance. They say, thank you, we couldn't have done it without you. Thank you for your support and your encouragement. We really appreciate you helping us. And there's a sense of value that is attained by being valuable to other people. And then I think type 3s, they have a more simple approach. Like if you're struggling with value, just go out and add value to yourself. Go find what people value and become that. Go find what people value and earn that, and then pin those on yourself. And as you look at your accomplishments and you look at your achievements, you will get a sense of being valuable and important as you climb up the corporate ladder, as you accomplish and achieve and win and are attractive and all the things that society values. Earn those and become that. It's a very straightforward approach. And then 4s, they take this alternative approach, of being exceptional in some way. And not in the traditional way that maybe 3s might take, of being exceptional by being fantastic. 4s are exceptional by being unlike other people. And I think probably 4s more than any other type have the sense about them, especially social 4s, they have the sense about them that we've been cast out of the Garden of Eden. It's like the rest of us are trying to fix this problem, and like social 4s are down there saying, don't you guys get it? Like, we're not in the Garden of Eden. Don't you guys get it? Like, there's something wrong with everything. Don't you guys get it? And they kind of wear this, like, we're broken. We're broken, and the rest of you guys just seem like to try to outrun this, and we're just willing to accept this. I mean, think about like the music of Nirvana, very type 4. Think about a lot of these artists, that we love that are type 4s. They're singing about that shallowness of everything and the mundaneness of everything and how there's something broken at the root of everything. And I think 4s, have that sense that I've got to be significant in some way by being unlike others and by standing out. And then they get this message back, from the rest of us that they have value or importance because they are exceptional. Okay, but really, I think all 3 of them are dealing with the same problem, the same fundamental problem of how do we know that we have worth and value now that we're not in the Garden of Eden. Okay, now let's take type 5, 6, and 7, the fear types, right? Or the head types. And I think types 5, 6, and 7 are all dealing with a fundamental human problem that we all have, which is, are we safe in this wilderness that we now occupy? In the Garden of Eden, we were safe. Like, we were protected. Like, there's angels guarding it, right? And God is right there with us. But now we're on our own, and we're out here in the wilderness, and it seems like everything is against us, like the animals want to eat us, and that our brothers and sisters, our fellow human beings, might overtake us and attack us. Like, how do we deal with the problem that we are not safe in this world? And I think 5s, they sort of move away from this and insulate themselves away from other people. If I don't need anybody and I remove myself and I detach and am unaffected by other people and the world around me, then I can remain independent and I can remain competent and I can remain self-sufficient and I can take care of myself. And I'm going to try to understand this world as it is. I'm going to try to master some portion of it. I'm going to try to master and understand so that I can relate to this world in some kind of competent way, at least about this subject matter. So kind of backing up away from the world that seems to overwhelm us, and then protecting ourselves, and then trying to master some aspect of the world so that I feel more safe and self-sufficient in this scary, broken world. Okay, 6s take the most direct approach, like, hey guys, don't you see that this world is broken? Look, are you not worried about this? Do you have any idea what this government is up to? I've got to warn people. I've got to wave the flag and blow the trumpet so people know, so that they can be alerted. And so this alarming, guarding, concerned trooper, like 6 is trying to stay focused on all the present dangers and all the potential dangers out there, and then warn the rest of us. Do you guys not see it coming? Are you not prepared? Do you not have a plan? Do you not have food in storage? Do you not have shelter? Do you not have money in the bank? Do you not have And so 6s, they're like accepting the fact that this is a scary world, and they don't understand why you guys are not aware of this. And you need to wake up, people. You need to wake up, and you need to see that we're not safe. We need support. We need guidance. We need assurance. And then sevens, they take sort of this alternate approach, like, well, I'm not going to focus on that. I'm not going to focus on what could go wrong. I mean, stay positive, focus on the good things in life. Focus on the beauty, focus on the positive things. Like, I don't want to be weighed down and trapped and stuck. I need to outrun whatever is chasing me, the pain, the difficulties, the scary stuff, those deep, fundamental, philosophical, frightening questions about worth and value and what happens when we die. I need to outrun that and focus on the good and pleasure and excitement and passion. And if I whistle in the dark, I don't need to be afraid of anything. And you can see sevens, entering into some world that is, like some arena that is, frightening or scary, and you'll see them laughing and telling jokes and trying to make other people happy. And look, guys, let's not get too serious. Look, guys, let's relax things a bit. Let's up the excitement. Let's eat, drink, and be merry and not worry about what might happen to us or worry about the future. And in this way, you see, I am able to blend these two things together and say, look, I think what happened at the Garden of Eden is we fell from this safe, secure position. We now are living in a cursed world where everything is broken and everything is, got its problems. Everything is still wonderful. It still has the thumbprint of God on it, but it's all marred and broken. And we have to figure out a way to relate to that. We have to figure out a way to get along with each other. And realize, guys, if you think I'm taking this too far and you're like, gosh, Tom, you're like way out here in this, you're making up stuff, just living in a world of speculation to try to give some kind of sense of value to your fundamental religious beliefs. Keep in mind, guys, that every one of these types is rooted in a dominant what? Oh, it's a passion. Okay, you can call it a passion, but, it's lust. It's pride, it's envy, it's, greed, it's gluttony. I mean, all of these things are gross. They're all bad things. They're all problems. They're all what the Bible calls sin. The Enneagram does not show us how to make ourselves perfect. It shows us that we're all broken. And that, watch this, if we're going to have a relationship with anybody else, we're going to have to accept the fact that everybody around us is broken. That if I remember coaching an 8, an older lady who was an 8, right? And she was like, Dr. Tom, how am I ever supposed to find somebody to love? I've been in 2 marriages and they both ended. And I tell you what, I could never be with a 9. I can't be with that sloth. I can't be with that indecision. Tell me what to do. I just can't be with that. There's no way I could be with a 1, preaching and telling me what to do and what's wrong and criticizing. And I can't be with that. I can't be with a 2 that's passive aggressive, 2 that's so needy. I can't be with a 3 always needing all the applause. I can't be with a 4. Oh my goodness, I have a kid who's a 4. I can't be with a 5. And they went around the dial and they decided they couldn't be with anybody. They said, maybe I could be with another 8. No. And see, guys, that is the problem right there, is the Enneagram doesn't show us how we're perfect. It shows us how we're broken. It shows us how we're broken. It doesn't save us. It shows us that we need a savior. We need some help. It doesn't give us all the answers to life. It doesn't make us complete. It's more like a mirror that you just hold up. Think about the first time you learned about the Enneagram. Well, maybe not the first time. The first time you were like, okay, I'm a 7. Yeah, I like to have fun. Yeah, I like to tell jokes. Yeah, that's me. But then what happened? As you started to dive in a little bit more, you realize the Enneagram scratches at you. It's not like Myers-Briggs. It's not like DISC. It's not like CliftonStrengthsFinders. The Enneagram doesn't tell you how you're great. It tells you how you suck. It tells you how you got problems. problems. And how does it feel when people talk about those dominant sins? It feels embarrassing. It feels exposing. I mean, guys, I've done corporate seminars, right? I walk in there and I talk to all these professional people, and it gets really serious and really uncomfortable quick when I start talking about the sins. Because here you are surrounded by all these CEOs, and they don't want other people to know that their dominant sin is sloth. They don't want people to know that their dominant sin is deception. They don't want people to know their dominant sin is lust or anger. And when you just barely scratch the surface of this, these dominant sins in our lives, it gets really quiet and uncomfortable because people feel exposed. Look what we're doing, guys. We're going beneath the surface and we're dealing with spiritual stuff. We're dealing with sin. In our culture, nobody wants to talk about sin. We laugh at it. Nobody wants to talk about spiritual stuff. But watch this. We're willing to talk about our personalities. We're willing to talk about our strengths and our growth points, and we're willing to talk about these things. And the Enneagram is such a great tool because it takes you immediately beneath the surface, right where somebody is struggling. And you're able to talk about things beneath the surface. And another way to talk about that topic of beneath the surface is spiritual stuff. It's not just personality, it's spiritual stuff. And so some Christians, they're apprehensive to use the Enneagram because it sounds like spiritual stuff. It sounds like metaphysical spiritual stuff. It is spiritual stuff. As soon as we start talking about beneath the surface and we talk about the fundamental problems of why is the world broken and where does our value come from and how do we live in this scary world, and then we start talking about all these dominant sins, we are talking about spiritual things. And so I think it's a fantastic tool for anybody to use, whether you consider yourself religious or not religious. I think it's a fantastic tool for self-improvement and growth and relationship building and connecting and understanding and all those things. But it is a super fantastic tool for Christians to use. I'm not afraid of it. I think it aligns with the truth of the universe. And I think that, again, it doesn't show us how to fix ourselves. There's not an Enneagram writer on my shelf that says the Enneagram teaches us how to fix ourselves. What do they all say? It teaches us how to observe ourselves and to catch ourselves in the moment and go, oh, wow, there I go again. There I go again. A 7 feeling the stuff 7s feel, or a 7 doing the things that 7s do. Who's really in charge here, me or the personality? If I were in charge, I would choose this course of action. But here I go again, doing these same predictable patterns, these same predictable compulsions or impulses that are moving me away from my stated goals in life. Who's really in charge here? Is Tom in charge or is 7 in charge? And this is what when they talk about the true self and the false self. Again, Christians go, what are you talking about? The true self, the false self? This sounds metaphysical. Well, think about it like this. The true self is you in your right mind. Think about, what do you want for your marriage? Think about, what do you want for your life? What kind of life do you want to have? What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of goals do you want to accomplish? See, that's the true self. But what happens is if I were to watch you at any given point in the day, I would find you doing things that are not at all moving toward what you want in life. They're not at all moving you toward that happy marriage that you said you wanted. It's not at all moving you toward that career that you said you wanted. All the stuff you wrote down that you said you wanted in life, look at you doing and saying things that are moving you away from it. And it's 100% predictable. Why? Because in that moment, your false self or your personality type is running. The default system is running your life for you, and you're just reacting, you're just compelled, you're just impulse, and you're just responding in very predictable patterns, very predictable ways that if you could pause in the moment and catch that, you would realize, wow, this feels right to me. But this isn't at all going to move me toward the happy marriage I said I wanted. This isn't at all going to move me toward that goal of being the thoughtful, loving father that I wanted to be. But I feel compelled. Yeah, you do. You know why? Because you have an Enneagram type. Why? Because you don't live in the Garden of Eden. All of us are broken. And let's probably just end there. So again, you don't have to accept this. This is my view. This is the way I blend these things together and make sense of what I see in the world around me. And again, I don't think the Enneagram fixes us. I don't think the intention is to fix us. I think it just shows us the way things are. And then we then have to deal with that and decide, well, what do we do next? What do we do next? What do we do next? And that will probably lead us to some kind of, let's say it that way, it could lead us to some kind of spiritual solution or some kind of religious answer to that difficult question. All right, guys, thank you. I appreciate you all. Of course, like, comment, and subscribe. I never tell you guys to do that, but, supposedly I should tell you to do that. I figure if you like it, I don't need to tell you. But feel free to leave comments. Let's get the discussion going. And like I said before, check out my class if you love this kind of stuff and you're a deep philosophical person that wants to deal with all these difficult questions. Sign up for the class, the Enneagram and Christian Life Coaching, or the Enneagram and Spirituality. The Enneagram and Spirituality deals with the fundamental questions that everybody asks. And then how to be more present, more mindful, and all those important things that would be essential to everyone, no matter what their religious belief system. Okay, guys, thank you. Appreciate you all. Love you all. Be present to life. I'll see you next time.